What would you do if your own parents took you to court, claiming you couldn't manage your own life? They wanted control of everything. My bank account, my apartment, my car. They called me incompetent. But there was one thing they didn't know, one detail my father never bothered to check. And when that truth came out in court, everything changed. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm 33 years old, and this is the story of how I defended myself against the people who were supposed to protect me. The envelope. It was a Tuesday evening when I found the envelope at my kitchen counter. Petition for appointment of conservator. Your parents, Robert and Linda Mitchell, are seeking legal control due to your inability to manage self-care and finances. My hands shook. Not from fear. I'd worked in the courthouse processing these exact documents my entire career. What made me shake was realizing my own parents had declared their daughter incompetent. I set the letter down next to my small notebook. 11 years of investment records in neat columns. My father always said I didn't know how to do anything except file paperwork. He was right about the paperwork, just wrong about everything else. My father, Robert Mitchell, dominated every room. Loud, controlling, dismissive. "What do girls know about that?" he'd say. For 20 years, he ran Mitchell Construction. Silver SUV, expensive watch, the image of success. My mother, Linda, manipulated through guilt. "I just worry about you, sweetheart," in a voice that made you feel criminal. What I didn't know, Mitchell Construction had filed bankruptcy 6 months earlier. The house had a foreclosure notice. Robert Mitchell was drowning and needed a financial lifeline he could control. Why I didn't leave sooner. 3 chains held me. First, at 22, I had $47,000 in student loans my father co-signed. "Walk away and I call the bank," he'd threaten. I paid off every cent by 31, crying in a parking lot. Not from sadness, because Robert Mitchell finally had nothing of mine in his hands. Second, my brother Marcus, 13 years younger. If I walked away, father would punish him. Marcus turned 20 last year, in college on merit scholarship, not a hostage anymore. Third, at 24, I signed a limited power of attorney I later revoked. Father kept the original and filed it with his petition as if still active. He lied to the court. When all 3 chains broke, father lost every leverage point. So he escalated to court. His mistake. The quiet accumulation. Here's what nobody tells you about working in archives. You spend days surrounded by financial records. Most people process and move on. I processed and took notes. By 23, I'd started investing. Index funds. Buy the total market, keep costs low, don't touch it. I opened an account with $400 and set up automatic monthly contributions. I lived on less than $1,200 monthly. Studio apartment, library books, used car, everything else went into investments. By 25, I noticed tax-lien properties at work, homes auctioned for back taxes, a 2-bedroom house purchased for $23,000, previous value $110,000. I bought it, learned repairs from online tutorials, rented it for $100 monthly, then bought another, then a third. My colleague Margaret, 61, became my mentor. She reviewed my tax filings, notarized documents, never questioned why I lived in a studio while owning rental properties. Nobody knew. I didn't drive new cars or wear expensive clothes. At home on my laptop, I kept a second tab open, an investment portfolio compounding for 11 years. Margaret was the only person who knew I had more than a studio, but even she didn't know the exact number. Not until the court-ordered disclosure. The campaign. After I refused voluntary conservatorship, father launched his campaign. Relatives started calling. "Your dad says you've been struggling." Mother posted on social media. "When your child refuses help, all a mother can do is pray." 87 reactions. Father's late-night texts. "You think you're smarter than your father? A girl with no husband, living in a box. You'll regret this." I screenshot every one, time-stamped, saved on a flash drive. The court order. The court ordered. Both parties submit full financial disclosure. For me, it was an invitation. I called Margaret. "I need help compiling everything, all of it." A pause. "All of it, Sarah?" "Everything." When we finished 3 days later, we stared at the bottom number. Margaret removed her glasses. Your father has absolutely no idea, does he? No, he doesn't. I'd never totaled it before. Numbers compound quietly, growing like roots under concrete. The false evidence. Father's lawyer was Craig Thompson. 12 consecutive conservatorship wins, $400 hourly, paid with money father couldn't afford. The evidence. Sworn statements claiming I lived in isolation, unable to manage responsibilities. Letters from coached relatives. And a psychological evaluation from Dr. James Parker concluding I had impaired judgment. I read it twice. Dr. Parker had never met me, never examined me, never spoken to me. The report was based entirely on family descriptions, a psychological evaluation of someone the doctor never saw. I called my attorney, Rachel. The doctor never examined me. That's not just unethical, it's potentially fraud, and it's exactly what we're going to use. The credit report, Rachel told me. Pull your credit report tonight, all 3 bureaus. Why? When a parent files for conservatorship over a financially independent adult, it's sometimes not the first time they've crossed a line. That night, I found it. 2 credit cards I never opened. Combined balance, $28,400. A home equity line against my rental property, $85,000. Opened 9 months ago, a signature that wasn't mine. My parents hadn't just filed for conservatorship to gain control. They'd already been inside my finances, using the revoked power of attorney to open credit lines to feed a bankruptcy they hadn't told anyone about. Total, $113,400 stolen from me by my parents. I called Rachel at 11:15 p.m. I found it. This is identity theft. This is why they need conservatorship, to retroactively legalize what they've already done illegally. I want it all to come out at once, in the hearing, in front of the judge, in front of my father. Then we commission a forensic audit. Marcus's call. 3 days before the hearing, 9:43 p.m., my brother called. Sarah, I overheard Dad on the phone with his lawyer. He said, the girl probably has $30, $40 grand in the bank. That's enough to cover a few months of payments. Once conservatorship goes through, I sell her car and the apartment lease, and we restructure. Marcus's voice hardened. He called you the girl, Sarah. Then he told his lawyer, she's not going to fight it. She doesn't have it in her. There's something else. I recorded it. 18 minutes. Our state allows one-party consent. It's legal. For the first time in months, I felt not alone. You've been protecting me since I was 7, Marcus said. I'm 20 now. It's my turn. The hearing begins Tuesday, 8:45 a.m., County Court. I arrived in light blue shirt, dark slacks, flat shoes. I looked exactly like what I was, a county records employee. Father and mother sat with Craig Thompson. Behind them, coached relatives. I sat next to Rachel. On our table, one clear folder, yellow tabs, 40 pages. Father's fingers tapped the table. Slow, rhythmic. He always did that when he felt certain he'd won. Judge Callahan took the bench. Craig Thompson stood. Your Honor, we're here out of concern for Sarah Mitchell. She lives alone, maintains minimal social contact, earns modest income as a file clerk. Her parents aren't adversaries, they're concerned parents. He introduced the statements, the coached letters, the psychological report. A qualified assessment by Dr. Parker. Mother cried softly. Craig Thompson glanced at me dismissively. The message, she's a file clerk. She doesn't have anything. The response, Judge Callahan turned to us. Does the respondent wish to present a response? Rachel stood. We'd like to begin with the court investigator's report. The clerk read, the investigator conducted a 90-minute evaluation. Respondent demonstrated full cognitive capacity, organized living conditions, no clinical indicators of impaired judgment. Additionally, the psychological evaluation was authored by Dr. Parker, who has no documented record of direct examination. The courtroom went quiet. Judge Callahan looked up. Counselor Thompson, were you aware Dr. Parker did not conduct a direct examination? Craig Thompson opened his mouth, closed it. Your Honor, I was under the impression... That wasn't my question, Rachel continued. Your Honor, we'd like to submit respondent's asset disclosure and a supplemental document directly relevant to the true motivation behind this petition. She handed the folder to the bailiff. Yellow tabs. 40 pages. Judge Callahan began reading. He paused, flipped back, read again. Father whispered to his lawyer. I could see his lips. She doesn't have anything. We request the court officer read the asset inventory into record. Judge Callahan nodded. Proceed. The revelation. The bailiff cleared his throat. Asset item 1. Investment accounts held solely in the name of Sarah L. Mitchell. Verified balance, $1,014,112. Silence. Dense, heavy silence. Craig Thompson's pen touched his pad but didn't write. Mother's handkerchief fell. Father leaned forward like he'd misheard. Judge Callahan looked from the document to me, then to Father. Father turned. The entire courtroom heard it. That's not. There's a mistake. She's a file clerk. Check the number. Craig Thompson didn't check. He stared at the document. Rachel sat motionless. We'd agreed. Say nothing. Let the numbers speak. Continue. Asset item 2. 3 residential rental properties held solely in the name of Sarah L. Mitchell. 2-bedroom on Elm Court, purchased 8 years ago for $23,000. Current value $185,000. 3-bedroom on Prospect Avenue, purchased 5 years ago for $61,000. Current value $340,000. Duplex on Cedar Lane, purchased 3 years ago for $92,000. Current value $365,000. Total appraised real estate value $890,000. Combined annual rental income $39,600. Craig Thompson closed his laptop, placed both hands flat on the table. Father's face was a color I'd never seen. His daughter, the file clerk living in a box, owned 3 houses. He'd lost his. Proceed. Asset item 3, supplemental document, independent forensic audit report. Findings. Between January and September, Robert M. Mitchell and Linda M. Mitchell executed unauthorized financial transactions totaling $113,400 using respondents' personal information. Transactions include 2 credit card accounts opened via identity fraud, combined balance $28,400, and 1 home equity line of credit obtained using a revoked power of attorney and a forged signature. Judge Callahan's hand came up. Stop. He removed his glasses slowly, looked at Father, looked at Mother, looked at Craig Thompson, whose face had drained of color. Get security in here, now. Marcus testifies. Father stood. That's a misunderstanding, Your Honor. Mr. Mitchell, sit down. 2 security officers entered. The courtroom door opened. Marcus walked in wearing a college hoodie. Rachel stood. Your Honor, we have 1 additional witness. Marcus Mitchell, the petitioner's son. Father spun. Marcus, what are you? Marcus walked to the witness stand. Your Honor, 1 week ago, I overheard my father by phone with his attorney. He stated, the girl probably has $30-40 grand in the bank. Once conservatorship goes through, I sell her car and the apartment lease and we restructure. Marcus looked at Father. Dad didn't file this because he's worried about Sarah. He filed it because he's broke and thought she was an easy target. Father lunged forward. Marcus! Judge Callahan's gavel hit like a gunshot. Mr. Mitchell, 1 more word and I will hold you in contempt. Marcus turned to me. His eyes were wet, but his voice steady. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner. I couldn't speak, but I held his gaze. The verdict. Judge Callahan removed his glasses. The petition for conservatorship over Sarah L. Mitchell is denied. There is no credible evidence the respondent lacks capacity. To the contrary, the evidence demonstrates exceptional financial competence. Second, the psychological evaluation prepared without direct examination is at best grossly negligent. I am referring Dr. Parker to the State Medical Board. Third, the forensic audit presents prima facie evidence of identity theft, financial fraud, and use of a revoked power of attorney. These are criminal acts. He turned to the clerk. I am ordering the entire record transmitted to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. To Father and Mother, you are not to leave this county until further notice. The gavel came down. This hearing is concluded. Aftermath. In the hallway, I heard him. "Sarah!" Father, coming fast. "You need to drop the referral to the DA. I am your father." Rachel positioned herself between us. "Mr. Mitchell, my client is under no obligation to speak with you." Father's eyes were desperate. First time I'd seen him look desperate. Mother reached for my arm. "Sarah, please. I'm sorry, sweetheart." I stopped. "Mom, your apology doesn't erase $113,000 in unauthorized transactions. You need to talk to a lawyer, not to me." I turned around. Rachel beside me. Marcus behind me. Glass doors ahead, afternoon light pouring through. I didn't look back. The resolution. 2 weeks later, the district attorney opened a formal investigation. Father was charged with identity theft, financial fraud, and filing fraudulent documents. Mother as an accessory. Dr. Parker's license went under review. His practice website went offline. Craig Thompson faced a state bar ethics inquiry. 6 months later, Father accepted a plea deal. 2 years probation, 200 hours community service, full restitution of $113,400. Neither went to prison. First-time nonviolent offenders. The 4-bedroom house was foreclosed. They moved to a 1-bedroom apartment 30 miles away. I don't call them. They don't call me. The real boundary is older than the restraining order, built over 33 years of being told I wasn't enough. At work, I was promoted. Senior records analyst. I put the nameplate next to my framed receipt from the last student loan payment. One marking the end of a debt. One marking the beginning of being seen. I'm still in the studio, but I've been looking at houses, not for investment, for me. A place with a kitchen big enough to cook and a yard where I could sit in the sun. Closing, someone asked if I've forgiven my parents. What I said was, "Forgiveness is my business, consequences are the courts, and boundaries belong to both of us." I'm Sarah Mitchell, 33 years old, county records analyst, owner of a car with 112,000 miles, a studio apartment I chose, 3 rental properties I earned, and an investment account I've been feeding since I was 22. My father called me the girl who sorts paper. He wasn't wrong. I spent 11 years sorting paper. Property deeds, foreclosure filings, financial records. I learned the language of ownership by watching it pass through my hands. And the paper taught me something Robert Mitchell never intended. That the quietest person in the room can build the most. I didn't do this to prove him wrong. I did it because it was mine. Every dollar, every hour, every quarterly statement. Built in silence, maintained in discipline, and defended in a courtroom when the people who should have been proud tried to take it instead. I think about that hearing sometimes. The bailiff's voice reading numbers into the record. The moment Father's fingers finally stopped tapping. I don't think about it with satisfaction. I think about it with exhausted clarity. The clarity when you've carried something heavy for a very long time, then set it down and realize your hands are shaking. Not because you're weak, but because you were strong for longer than you knew. I sort paper. I keep records. I pay attention to the fine print. And I built my life on my own terms, every single page of it. That's my story. Thank you for staying until the end. If this reached something inside you, share it. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting alone wondering if they're strong enough to draw the line. Let them know the answer is yes.